Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vassell and Sam Healy.
Today, folks, we're taking a look at a game called Eldritch Horror from Fantasy Flight Games. Now, Fantasy Flight Games has a very popular game out from Richard Lonnie. It's called Arkham Horror, which has 200 billion expansions.
That might be a little less.
Slight exaggeration, but there's a lot of expansions for it. It's a very popular game. It is one of their biggest sellers, and people have really enjoyed that game. This game is similar, but it's a different, complete game. It's not an expansion.
Right.
It doesn't even feel like you don't like, oh, this is the same game, just in a different place. It isn't. But it does have a lot of similarities to it. Certainly has a similar feel, except while Arkham Horror took place in, well, the city of Arkham, I guess. Anyway.
Sure.
This one takes place over the world. You're globe-trotting, and you're trying to stop Cthulhu or I don't know all their names, but you're trying to stop these things. Let's just get to how the game works.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the game, each player is going to take their character. They'll get a character marker, and there's plenty of different characters that you can take over the course of the game. Each character has a number of hit points and a number of will points or brain power, what have you. You know, if you lose all this, you go insane. If you lose all that, well, you die. You also have 5 different stats: lore, influence, observation, strength, and will. And as the game progresses, you will often have to make a test regarding these. Tests need 5 or 6 to get them to pass the test. So let's say, for example, I need to pass an observation test. I'd roll 3 dice, and I rolled 1 5, so I'm fine. I might have to pass an observation -2 test, in which case only 1 die, and there I would fail. So obviously, the higher the stat you have, the better you are. And over the course of the game, it's possible to increase your stats through various ways so that you have better ones. These cards also give you a specific action that only you can take, a special ability that you may or may not have, and also it tells you on the back your starting location, where you're going to start on the board. And so, for example, she starts in the American Heartland, and also some things that you start with. She starts with a Flesh Ward spell, and she starts with a random clue. You must sadly pick the bad guy. There are 4 of them in the game, unlike later in the video when we say 5 by accident. You have Azahoth, then you have Yog Sothoth, and Shub Niggurath, and then, of course, our favorite, Cthulhu. Each of these has special things in play. They'll show you how you build a deck of cards, this Mythos deck of cards that's right here. These are cards that the bad guy will be using. There's yellow, greens, and blues, and the number you put in the game is determined by the bad guy. There's cultists. This will affect different cultists that show up. And it talks about lots of special things that have to do with Cthulhu. Now, they also come with special decks. There's some Cthulhu mysteries. There's a special investigation deck for Cthulhu. And then there's another one down here for clues. When you find clues on the board, you will use this specific deck, which will kind of tell you a story about Cthulhu. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're going to turn over one of these mystery cards. And for example, this one here is Risen. So we're going to put a mystery token on a space 3, and you have to go do this. You have to go accomplish this task to solve this mystery. There's 4 of these mysteries, and for you to win the game, you must accomplish 3 of those 4 mysteries. If you do not do that, and the Mythos deck runs out, you will lose. You also lose if everyone's been eliminated. And also, when there's a Doom track here, when the Doom track gets to 0, then something bad will happen depending on the bad guy. One of them just makes you lose. Some of them, Cthulhu is risen from the sea, and basically you're probably going to die at that point in time, but you still might be able to beat him. So it's possible. So that kind of gives you the story. Meanwhile, look at the map here. Now the map is very nice because all the different locations either have a name or they have a number on them. And this is critical because different things are going to be happening in different spots. Many times you'll be placing clues on the board. Clues are great because you need them to accomplish pretty much everything. They also let you re-roll dice. So many times you'll be placing these on the board and you just draw one. This one, for example, says 21. So I look on the board and find space 21 and I'll put the clue there. And so that's how this game progresses. You'll be putting clues out. Now, players are going to have 2 actions on their turn. Many times their actions might be moving from one location to another location. They also, if they're in a city, will have extra actions that they can take. One of the actions they can take in a city is they can take a ticket. You can take a ship ticket or a train ticket, and in the future when you move, let's say I move from here to here, on my next turn, I can use that C ticket to move another time. And you can have up to 2 tickets, so you can kind of save movement. Also in your city, you can decide to buy something. You can go down here to the reserve, and you're going to make a influence check. So let's say I have 3 influence. So I'm going to roll, and I just rolled 0 successes. So that would be a pretty failure. Here I rolled 1 success. So that essentially means I have, well, this is 2 successes, but I moved the die. I have 1 success, so I can buy 1 thing. That costs 1. So I can buy this .18 Derringer, and that's great. But I wanted something better than that. Well, fortunately, you can always take a loan. And you add 2 successes, so now I have 3, and I can take this carbine rifle. The problem is, whenever you take one of these, you are going to have to take a debt card. Now, the debt card is a new thing called condition. And the way condition cards work is there are several debt cards. You take one of these debt cards. At certain points during the game, there's a little red symbol will show up on a Mythos card. When that happens, you have to flip your card over. And here, a debt to an unwilling servant. I apparently must take a dark pact now. Or maybe I have to make a deal with someone. Or maybe I'm just in debt to a bad debt collector. Or to hitmen. Or to Beyond Riches. He's ripped part of my soul away. Or to the local authorities. There's different things. And these are not the only conditions that you can get. There are dark pacts. There's amnesia. There's blessed. There's leg injuries. And each of these, for example, a leg injury could very well be stabbing pain, or could cause a twisted knee, or strange remedy. You're never sure which one they are, because when you take these, they're gone. So, I mean, some of them are forced upon you. Debt, though, is something you enter into willingly, so that's up to you. So players will, after they've taken their actions and they can trade things with other people, they're then going to draw a card, or basically do something based on where they are. Now, you're supposed to provide a cup or a bowl, and you put all these monsters in it. And as the game, monsters are going to show up on the board. And these monsters are nasty little creatures. Let's take a look at some of them. So you can see all sorts of monsters here, and different monsters have different things. Some monsters will cause an effect when that symbol. But when you fight a monster, you're going to make a check with your will, and then a check with your strength, and weapons can be included here. And when first you make a check with will, and if you don't succeed, you're going to lose. You're going to go insane slowly. And then you make a check. See, this one's like a strength check -2. And if you don't succeed, you'll lose hit points. And then the monster requires 2 hits for you to destroy it. So these monsters will be all over the board, which is a real pain in the neck. But there are other places too. If you go, for example, to Buenos Aires, you'll notice it says here, gain ritual spells. That's a place that you might want to go to if you get spells. You'll draw a card from the matching deck. There's a deck for green background cities. You'll look for Buenos Aires, and then you will do whatever it says here. So basically, this one here just says that, you read the little story here, and you can spend a clue to get a ritual spell. So that's pretty cool when you go to a city. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, like out in the middle of the sea, or maybe you're at some unknown city, then you'll just draw one of these random cards and do whatever it says here, city, wilderness, or sea, depending on which one you're at. If you're at a clue token, you'll draw a clue card because you want tokens, and this usually progresses the story because it's matched with the monster. Gates will be showing up on the board. Gates are terrible things because monsters will be coming out of them. So if you're at a gate, you'll draw one of these, and this usually is like a 2-part thing that you have to go through and do different tests to go through these. And I'm trying not to show you too much of these because, you know, it's more fun to find a story out as you go. There's also an expedition on the board. This expedition starts in the pyramids. I know that because there's an expedition deck here which shows pyramids on the top. When you go to the pyramids, you will do whatever this expedition card tells you to do. Then I'll look at the next one and, oh, okay, now it moves to that location on the board, which happens to be the Heart of Africa. So there's different places to go on the board. You're also going to usually be going to specific places thanks to whatever Cthulhu has you doing at that point in time if you're fighting him, or whatever the other guys have you doing. And you'll often be putting different markers on the board. All this is going to be going, but between all the players' turns, you'll be turning over these Mythos cards from a deck, and different symbols will be happening here. There's the one that makes cards flip over. Here's an event. But this one here, this means a gate opens up. There's different symbols that happens. This one here has the Omen Track move. Now, the Omen Track is a critical thing. Up here, the Omen Track will be slowly rotating around here. And it can do different things depending on the monster involved in the game. But many times when you move it, for example, every gate on the board that is a blue gate. So, for example, this Tokyo gate, if that was on the board, that would cause the Doom Track to move down by 1. So you have to get gates shut, because if you don't, it's really going to advance the Doom Track. Now, there's other things here for the number of players in the game. It shows you how many gates come out when gates are spawned, how many monsters come out, how many clues come out. So there's different things based on the number of players, and that's kind of a quick overview. There's a lot more going on in the game, but that's kind of how it plays. Each player will take 2 actions. You turn over a Mythos card, and you follow this story until eventually you win, or more likely, you lose. Well, I think before, we're going to compare it to Arkham Horror near the end. Let's just talk about the game. Let's say someone's never played Arkham Horror at all, and they come into this. To me, the #1 selling point of this game is the story. Such a cool story. From the events that happen, and you're going around the world, and you have to accomplish something, and all of a sudden some other sub-event happens, and you need to go deal with that, and it feels like, it's like, oh, there's an annoying side event I got to go take care of. And then there are many events that deal with the main story. Like if you play the opening one with, is it Azahaya? There's this meteor that lands somewhere, and it's an alien meteor. Then you got to go explore that, and then things happen. And each of the different bad guys, and I think there's 5 in here, has their own subplots and own stories, while there's lots of generic stuff in there too. Mm-hmm. And then even your character has a story. If they die or they go insane, someone else can come and like finish your story. So you didn't just die. It was like, and he gasped and went into the night, type thing. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's. But I mean, everything from. I think this is a much more cohesive story than Arkham Horror or other games like that. Sometimes where you're just like, oh, you open a door and there's a flock of bats. You open the next door and there's evil mermaids, and then up next door, it's kind of random. This one felt more put together.
Mermaids were evil, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
They've just been dolled up.
I've never seen them kill anything.
I've never seen them at all.
Okay. Anyhow, I feel like this game had a lot of different choices to make too. Mm-hmm. And the choices I made, I felt that they mattered.
Yeah.
Sometimes in these games you kind of just go around and randomly do stuff. And this one it was like, you go here and I'll go there, and you really got to work together.
Yeah. And on that, it might, but again, of course, it comes down to who you play the game with. It might suffer a little bit from the alpha player syndrome, to where one guy can tell you what to do, he knows what's best, and you got to listen to him. If you play with those kind of people, just kick yourself in the butt, because
you shouldn't play with them.
You play with those people. So,
or you can do the opposite of everything they say.
Yes, exactly, which also makes for a fun experience. You'll lose, but it'll be fun doing so. Eldritch Horror is a game that, in my estimation, would replace. Now, I said this about Elder Sign 2, which gives you a little bit of an idea.
Wait, you said Elder Sign would replace Arkham Horror?
Yeah.
But that's comparing apples and oranges almost.
Because it's a shorter game, and it gave you kind of the same feel as Arkham Horror. That's the only reason. This one, however, has the same complexity level as Arkham Horror does, and it also offers the same itch. So that's why I think this replaces Arkham Horror. It's not It's still a long-ish game. I wouldn't say it's very long. The box says 2 to 4 hours, and
I'd figure 3 hours is a decent average.
I would say usually between 2 and 3 hours.
Depends on the number of players, though.
Right,
the fewer players, the faster it goes. It says it goes 1 to 8. I'm not playing with 8 ever.
Wow, that's like wow.
Is it my turn? Hang on, I'm gonna go to sleep over here.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna go fix myself a sandwich while you do your turns. So, Eldritch Horror to me is really, and I'll probably take some flack for this, but that's okay. It's probably, for me, it's the same as Arkham Horror, just in a more manageable size. Arkham Horror, I think, suffered from too many expansions that gave the game too many different directions. Eldritch Horror, while this is still a base game, and I think it's probably about the same size as the Arkham Horror base game, if they're careful with their expansions, I think they'll keep this the same size, and it won't become overhyped later on down the road.
Before I get into this with Arkham Horror, I want to say my favorite part of this game, by far, is the condition cards. I love them. I love how you can be in debt, but you're not quite sure to who. Yeah. I love how you're paranoid, but you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. And you flip these cards over, you're like, ah!
I'm paranoid, but I don't know why.
But I mean, that's really cool because you can go into debt, and sometimes it's not that big of a deal. Other times you just made a dark pact.
Right, exactly.
You know, or amnesia. What did I do when I was out? Oh, you robbed a bank, or you made a dark pact and you didn't know about it.
Yeah. It was really cool. Yeah,
I love those, and I would love to see more of those in expansions because I think that's such a cool idea.
Yeah.
Now with Arkham Horror, you know, I didn't agree with Sam with Elder Sign. I liked Elder Sign. I just didn't think they were the same thing. This and Arkham Horror are not the same game. I said that at the beginning, but for me, they fit in that same bucket. They scratch the same itch. So I'm actually going to be getting rid of Arkham Horror to keep this game, because they both do the same thing. I'm not saying this is better than Arkham Horror. I actually like Arkham Horror maybe a little bit better with all its expansions, but this is streamlined, and if it adds more expansions, which gives more story, I like the cohesive story, and it just felt... In Arkham Horror, there's different monsters that move different ways, and there's a lot of things to keep track of. This was just so much more manageable.
Yeah.
You didn't have to keep track of money. You just rolled successes and bought cards. You were able to get things easier. The cards were always available to buy. You didn't have to go to a specific spot and hope you drew a gun.
Yeah.
It just worked on a better level. Now, we haven't played it dozens of times, so I don't know if these same 5 dudes will eventually get wearisome with their stories, but I think that for the price of the game, I think if you played each guy twice, which would give you a pretty good story with each guy twice, that's 10 3-hour plays.
Yeah.
I think that's worth the price of the game right there.
And if you're worried about expansions, look at this logo right here. This logo should tell you there's going to be expansions. I don't have any insider information. I'm going simply on the Fantasy Flight logo. They're going to put expansions.
Well, it's Fantasy Flight and it's Cthulhu.
Yes.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. I'll eat a hat live if they don't do an expansion. It's not going to happen. Okay. So, now, we're recording this after Sam Z and I did our top 10 games of the year. Would this have made your top 10?
Definitely. Definitely. This would have... I'm not going to put the thought into, at this point in time, which games it would have knocked off. But definitely my number 10, Carcassonne South Seas, would have been off. Not that I don't like Carcassonne South Seas, but this one is much more down my alley as far as games that I enjoy and games that I want to recommend for playing at a game day. So
for me, 2 machine guns firing frantically in the air up. Great game, Eldritch Horror.
And I'm going to give this one 2 tentacles up.
I knew you were going to say tentacles, that's why I did not.
And there you go.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.